Alrighty, welcome back everyone. I hope everyone's loaded up on coffee and snacks, but still not like doozy or sleepy enough. Do we need all a quick stretch? Come on, guys. Let's all stand up. Come on, all in the room. Stand up. Yes. All right, and let's have a huge round of applause for all the speakers we've had till now. Like, woohoo! Great. I love it. I love the energy. And we'll do another huge round of applause for our next set of speakers because this is a very special joint presentation by Autodesk and AWS. I talked a little bit about it today morning, and I won't be giving any spoilers, but we'll be listening about a great partnership and hopefully start off something brilliant and beautiful. So everybody, please, huge round of applause for Nima, Manabu, and Brandon.
All right. Great, so now I get to speak a little bit, or do 2 slides. So today I'm going to talk about a project called the Cloud Native Operational Excellence Group, Canoe for short. We recently launched this group with AWS and many of our peer organizations. Many of them are here today. We've been working on this for over a year now, and I'm really excited to share our progress. So first, I'm just going to set some context about the background, how the project came together, and why. Autodesk has been partnering with the AWS open source team for a while now on many different projects. And the interesting thing about this team from Autodesk's perspective is they have a really interesting and unique vantage point in looking into the organizations that they serve. So they have all these strategic customers, and they have insights into how they're solving these developer productivity problems. And they would often bring these organizations together at these very useful events, a lot like this one. And after those events, we would sit down with all these peer organizations and would have really deep discussions about how we are approaching these problems. Like, what are your technology strategies? Where are you placing your bets in the open source ecosystem? And this was extremely valuable. And one day I was talking with Paul Roberts about this value, and he pitched this idea, since he's like, well, if you have all these organizations that are so aligned, why don't we just create a project where you can navigate this problem space together? What if we could align all of our approaches, place our bets together? This could de-risk our technology bets and really give a lot of credibility internally to our platform efforts. So I thought about this for a little bit, and it was obvious that there's a leadership gap in this area. And the concept was really compelling. So Autodesk has been making a lot of investment in this project with all of our other peer organizations to refine the concept. And I'm very happy with where we've ended up. So now I'm going to hand off to Nima and Manabu to review what we've built so far and where we're headed.
Thank you very much. Is this working? Oh, yes. All right. It is great to be here and look at all your presentations on integrations with Backstage and internal developer portals. What I want to talk to you about is internal developer platform, actually, P's for platform. And one of the interesting things about building internal developer platforms is that it's a complex stack, right? You have a lot of different components that you need to kind of work through. And we have worked with our peer companies, Autodesk, Adobe, Tulio, and Salesforce, to kind of figure out the different aspects of an internal developer platform. And we name each of these boxes as capabilities. Right? So when you're building an IDP, what you need to do is think about technologies that you want to use to actually address each one of the capabilities in the IDP. And then you are presented with this. So it's a list of 300 plus technologies that you have options to choose from when you're building your IDP. And it's insanely difficult for people to decide exactly what set of technologies they're going to use for it. In a place where, in fact, what you need is something like this. Only a subset of technologies that, are great community momentum, they're actually delivering on the promises, and they actually get you the internal developer platform experience that you require, right? Now, this picture is obviously simplified. There's a lot more to it. But the idea is that you don't need to look at 300-something projects. You can look at 20 projects, 20-something projects, right? So one of the things that we have started to build with Canoe is basically to look at this problem and solve it. Basically, look at the tool sprawl that we have with CNCF. Look at the fast-paced technology churn that we have with CNCF and decide about what are the right set of technologies and tools that we can collectively agree on when we're building internal developer platforms, right? There is, as Brandon said, there is a lack of neutral and unbiased guidance in this space. Obviously, ISVs are interested in selling you their products, so they come in and they pitch their products to you. There is lack of leadership, so there hasn't been like a clear understanding or commitment from a group of organizations pushing IDPs in a certain direction. And we decided to solve this with Canoe. So what Canoe is in fact a community effort to build alignment and gravity around technology choices when you build IDPs. And we want to power this by open source technologies. The gravity and the alignment comes from having these big companies come together and agree to push for adoption of certain technologies within their organizations. And if you see for the group of companies that we have as the founding members for Canoe, that's been exactly the mission. Basically agreeing to push for as much as possible to align on certain set of CNCF technologies when building IDPs. So with that, we hope that we will be able to solve a few of the problems that we talked about. We hope to be able to increase internal credibility when it comes to choosing CNCF technologies for adoption internally. We de-risk technology choices because now it's not your company only that is actually utilizing a technology. It's a group of companies. And with that comes momentum, with that comes investments, et cetera, which helps with having that project better funded and supported as you move your IDP plans forward. You can deliver better software faster, obviously, because there's a collective that kind of decides on the next steps. We can pull resources across organizations and improve contributions to the open source projects. So we've been very fortunate to work with a group of amazing companies to launch Canoe. The founding members of Canoe, as of the announcement yesterday, have been Adobe, Autodesk, Salesforce, Twilio, and AWS. And if you're not familiar with Canoe, you can go to canoe.io and find out more. Why is this exciting to AWS, though? And I think this is particularly important, and I want to get this across. First of all, it allows us to be more tactical when supporting IDP development work. One of the things that Brandon mentioned, we at AWS are positioned to work with the strategic customers on developing their IDPs, right? The one thing that we've seen a lot is that all these different customers experiment with different set of things. So if we manage to get alignment on technology choices, then it makes it a lot easier for us to actually achieve a number of things. It allows us to be more focused with engagements, because now we exactly know what open source technologies we're going to engage with our customers on. It allows for deeper expertise in utilizing those technologies within the companies, in the collaborations that we have. And it actually provides stronger guarantees around the longevity of the open source project, because there is more investment, obviously. Another thing that is very important and very interesting, and this is something that we've been getting asked for quite a lot, is to better promote open source projects from Canoe members. One of the common asks that we receive from a lot of the AWS customers that we work with is that you have open source projects that you want to actually promote, right? But the problem is that, if there is no proper alignment between your open source project and what other companies want, it's really hard to promote it. What happens is that because now we can gather around certain open source technologies, it makes a lot more sense to now take open source technologies that kind of evolve within one company and then advocate for other companies. All right, so let's talk about Canoe internal developer platform. Like I said, we actually have focused on building the capability map, and we've selected a set of technologies that we can use for the internal IDP. But how did we decide on the technology choices? One of the things that we've developed with Canoe is the Canoe technology radar. So if you look at the technology radar, you see that there are technologies that all the member companies have adopted in developing their internal developer platforms. And one of the things that is very interesting in this technology radar is how many of those technologies land in this inner circle. And the more of the companies we can actually get to agree on the set of technologies in the inner circle, the more successful we are going to be in pushing that alignment around Canoe. So that has been the core driving factor when we decided about what technologies to adopt for an internal developer platform. So with that, then we decide on how these technologies actually address the different capabilities of the technology map. Then we actually go and utilize those technologies to build reference implementations. So we build reference implementations that allow you to basically put these projects together and deliver internal developer practices around application delivery and around data analytics deployments. One of the things that is very interesting and unique about Canoe is that Canoe wants to actually provide extension points. A lot of the work, when you deal with internal developer platforms, there is a lot of lift and shift involved. Bigger enterprises do not work with teams that basically have no other dependencies to other projects. There's oftentimes a lot of dependencies. There is a lot of legacy work that you need to bring on to an internal developer platform. And we have actually worked towards building tooling that allows you to do that lift and shift for your internal teams. One of the things that we've done, for example, I don't know if you're familiar with the initiative Data on EKS. Data on EKS is basically a set of Terraform modules that you can use to utilize Kubernetes clusters to run big data workloads and AI ML workloads. It's all written in Terraform. One of the things that we've done with Canoe is that through the implementation of a CLI feature, you can take the Terraform modules and then you can automatically convert them to Backstage templates. And you can auto-load them into Backstage and then deploy these Terraform modules directly from Backstage. I think in the American Airlines talk, they talked about a tool that they've developed to actually dynamically create templates programmatically so that they can reduce the complexity of building templates for the end developers. So the CLI pretty much does that, but it does it for existing Terraform modules. It also does it for cloud-native CRDs and XRDs. So essentially what you can do, if you have an operator that actually extends the Kubernetes control plane with CRDs and XRDs, you can pass that CRD to the Canoe CLI. You can get a template. You can get a Backstage template out of it, and you can load that Backstage template into your Canoe Backstage CLI and have Backstage configured with the rest of your system so that now through Backstage you actually get to deploy those CRDs. So we are extending Canoe to integrate with all the tooling that we're building around the IDP model that we have talked about. There are 5 plugins that we released yesterday as part of launching Canoe, but obviously the landscape of plugin development for Backstage is as complex as the landscape of CNCF projects. So one of the things that we really hope to achieve is to kind of converge, right? There are a lot of companies that are developing Backstage plugins. And you heard today, a lot of these companies do not necessarily want to develop or maintain. They prefer to actually push everything to the community where possible. Adobe have built very interesting plugins around Argo integrations, Argo workflows, and Argo CD. And I know that Tulio has actually developed very interesting plugins for taxonomy checks that they actually demoed earlier today. So if we can find the ones that matter to the community the most and actually align on the underlying technology and bring them to the community and support it, then there, rather than 5, 6 different technologies, there is going to be one plugin that can actually be the right plugin for that technology. So with that, I know we've got 5 minutes. I'm going to hand it to Manabu to do a quick demo. The demo is for the lift and shift that I talked about. Taking a Terraform module from Data on EKS and pushing it through the Canoe integrations so that you can actually deploy it to an EKS cluster. With that, Manabu.
All right. Thank you, Nima. Hey, Nima, can I get the clicker? Sorry. All right. So in this demo, just to give you an overview of what we're going to talk about, can we go back to the slides, please? Maybe not. Can we not go back? Okay. I guess we start. I guess you can play the video if you can. We good? Okay. All right. So yeah, just to give you an overview of what we're going to talk about. So we just have a data on EKS Git repository. This is just a Terraform modules. And we're just going to pull that one of the modules from there and then generate input fields from there, right? And then that gets loaded into the Backstage template, and then that gets registered into the Backstage. And then next, what it's going to do, it is going to do its Backstage things, right? It has to create this entity and all that stuff. And then at the end, it pretty much just invokes a Argo workflows. And then this Argo workflow is just going to provision a data workload optimized cluster. So in this case, we're just using Apache Spark operator, just to some data analytics stuff. And then finally, we'll just go back to Backstage and register the cluster. And then at the end, we'll see from the consumer perspective, you can submit the job through Backstage and then also visualize it in Backstage as well. All right, let's see, can we play the video? All right, so here we have the data on EKS repository. Like we mentioned, it's just a Terraform repository. It has a bunch of Terraform modules, right? So it's just ordinary Terraform module directory that we can, view over CNOE. So to begin, we have just one file called data on EKS. This file is a Backstage template. So if you look at it, it's just a regular Backstage template with some configuration options that are common to all Terraform modules. So our goal is to populate that very first step with the information from Terraform. So that's what we're going to do using the Canoe CLI command line. So taking the, so here we're just showing you that we already have the Terraform module downloaded in our local machine. So we're just going to tell the Canoe CLI to look at that directory and then pull in the information into the Canoe or the partially configured template so that we can kind of complete the entire process, right? So we press enter, and then we should have two templates now. So the first template is the data on EKS, the other one is the Spark case operator. So this is the brand new template that we just generated, right? And then if you do a def between these two, you'll see that the only difference between these two is just that one field. It's just TFRs. So just showing you that what I just said actually lines up with what it's doing. And let's see here. And okay, yeah, here I'm just showing you that all these different variables are just straight from the Terraform module variables, right? All right, so next we are just going to register the template and then invoke it, right? So we just go through the UI and then what it looks like in the UI. And then at the end, we'll just invoke the Argo workflow so that we can visualize it and all that stuff. For that, we have a data on EKS Spark operator template we just generated, and it's gone. Okay. Yeah, so here you can see that all the templates input fields that were generated based on the Terraform variables. And then here we're just doing all the different, the Backstage things, right? You need a place to store this Backstage entity information. So you have to create a repository and then store the catalog info and all that stuff. And then at the end, we just hit create, and it's just going to go through all the steps that we just talked about. So we're just doing create a repository, do some templating, push all the stuff, and then finally start the Terraform workflow. And you can see that on the right side, we have the Argo workflows job running. So if you just click on the name, it will just take you to the Argo workflows UI. And Backstage is good for showing certain information, but certainly not good for showing all the information. So if if the component has a good UI already, maybe just use it well, right? So here, just showing you it's running the Terraform job, and it's just doing its own thing. So next thing is to provision the Spark operator cluster, and then register that back into Backstage. And then finally, we will submit a job from the different users' perspective. And here you can see that we have a Spark operation application we are trying to create. And then in the cluster, we have a new cluster that was just created, and that you can select that as a target cluster to deploy this into. And then we just put more information in here. And then in here, we're just saying that, this is just a pure Kubernetes manifest. We are pasting in here. We could have used the Canoe CLI to generate all these fields for us too. But just for clarity and easy to see, we are just using the Spark manifest directly right here. And then again, we just go through the templating process, and then we just let it register. And then once it registers, we should be able to see the job in the UI as well. So the next step is to try to visualize that in the Backstage UI. All right. All right. Then, to do that, you just go to catalog, and then click on that demo Spark job, and then that will show you the Apache Spark jobs that's running. In this case, it's already completed, so there's really nothing going on. But at least you can see the status and execute on all the stuff. You can also look at the manifests, and you can look at the user logs and everything. But this just kind of walk you through all the tools that we built, and yeah, that's really it for my demo. Thank you very much.
Questions? Yeah, I think there were questions probably.
Alrighty. Okay, this is my favorite part. Again, for those of you who don't know, Brandon and I, we are pairs. So he leads the architecture team, and I lead the PM team, and I get to ask him questions on stage. So okay. Just kidding. I guess there's a lot of interest in Canoe, so this is great, and I think a lot of questions around alignment and getting organizations in there. So maybe, just feel free to, who's the right person to chime in on this. The first one is how are you balancing the need for flexibility with standardization in Canoe?
It's a very good question. I think a lot of this is, based on the community consensus. Canoe is a open community, it's open governance model, and essentially a lot of the decisions that are made by Canoe are based on the recommendations of the participating members. Every company who becomes part of Canoe, they get to assign a steering committee member, but they also bring in the technical team to participate. And I think at the end of the day, what the right balance is the balance that the steering committee and the participating members see as the right balance between flexibility and standardization.
I love that. That's great. I think that also takes care of this. There was this another question that was asking about what is the governance model around contributions, but if you want to add anything.
It's an open governance model. We have a model that is called simple governance model. It's a stripped down version of the CNCF governance model that makes the onboarding a lot easier and faster, especially for a really young, early organization. We didn't really want to go through all the complications of CNCF. So there is a repo on Canoe.io on GitHub that actually talks about governance. You can visit it, you can ask questions, but it's open. It's open to contribution and membership. So.
Love that, open to contributions. All righty. So this question around capabilities map, and I think there's a lot of interest in that at Autodesk in general. So do you see the capabilities map evolving as you add more organizations? And then I think probably I should have asked this question first, do you see Canoe adding more organizations going forward?
Yeah, so the capabilities map was actually one of the first things that we did together. Because across all of our organizations, we all had capability maps. We had one, Adobe had one that we actually saw today. And one of the things that we needed was the capabilities map, defining the capabilities in the internal developer platform and defining what their functions are and then their relationships to each other. So that we actually spent a good amount of time looking at all of our own internal developer platform capabilities map and coming up with something that we could use to ground all of our discussions. We refer back to the capability map, the Canoe capability map, often to ground our discussions around what do we need to build and the integrations we need to build where. As I would say that the capabilities map now, and you kind of showed this in your presentation, the blue sections versus the ones that are not filled in. We have more capabilities than we have opinions or approaches right now. So we've identified, I think that we'll make more, it's more likely that we'll grow into the existing capability map than add to it, because we have a lot of areas that we haven't stepped into yet in the existing capability map.
So I like that approach, right? Refine it rather than just grow it or build on top of it. And I think you kind of touched upon it a little, but if you want to elaborate more, then how did you actually go about getting that alignment around Canoe capability map across existing members?
Sure. So it was lots and lots of discussions, as you can imagine. There were rounds of suggestions for capabilities. I mean, one of the lucky things that happened to Canoe was obviously participating members had built capability maps already. Like Adobe had an amazing capability map that they presented early on. Same with Autodesk, same with Tulio. So I think it was easy. We had to start with something and then really focus on the bits that mattered, like in the immediate future to the members, right? And then focus on the technologies that would satisfy those capabilities. So by doing so, we were able to really focus on the few that were like, like for example, for CD, for CI, for container orchestration, and for developer portal, right? So kind of trimmed it down, and by doing that, we were able to really get to a common ground across the technologies that all of us participating members utilize.
Yeah, and one call out that I want to thank Sarah and the UX team and developer enablement, because they really stepped into Canoe, the project itself, and helped us actually put that together. So we were wandering around a lot trying to put together the capabilities map, and the Autodesk developer enablement UX team came in and really helped us finish that out.
So you're saying you put some boxes together and then XD put you out of your misery to make it like readable, kind of? I mean, that's awesome, amazing. Thank you for your transparency. Yeah. All righty. I think there's a couple of questions around how does Canoe go from here? So one is around, do you see adding more organizations other than what you have in Canoe right now? And then contribution to Canoe plugins, is it open to all, or do you see that going beyond just the members?
I think the focus is on both. First of all, we want to make sure that the technologies that we are putting out actually make sense. So I think there's going to be an immediate focus on getting the IDP, the first set of capabilities in the IDP right, with the right set of technologies, with the right set of technologies and integrations. And from there on, it's obviously open to contributions and involvement from other organizations. I think the key here for any organization that wants to join Canoe is to decide on making sure that they actually align on technology choices with the technology choices that Canoe advocates for. If you're there, if you see technologies X and Y as the right set of technologies for capabilities, X prime and 1 prime, then you're probably with the right group of folks. And from there, we can just continue on.
All righty.
One thing I'll say about that too, the reason that we were very sensitive in the formation or in the early days of Canoe, because the concept was very much storming and changing, that we wanted to, like he says, the alignment around the technology and technology choices for the IDP. We wanted to keep that alignment early, because we thought if we added too many different viewpoints, it would be very difficult to get off the ground.
So I hope you have found the right magic number for the founding and forming group. And then we have one last question on the Canoe, I guess on the demo that we showed towards the end. So is it possible to run that Canoe platform for development?
What do you mean by development?
So I would actually let Brandon elaborate. So
maybe to run it on your laptop to test.
Oh, yeah. So there is another contribution that actually came from Autodesk. It has a version of pretty much like a binary that you can run on your laptop. That's kind of spin up all these components, Canoe components, on your local laptop, and then start from developing on there. So if you don't want to use the reference implementation, and you don't want to spin up a full-on cluster, then you can do that through that local CLI. And that's being developed right now, but we are hoping to improve it in the future to have more pluggability and all that stuff baked in.
Righty, thank you. Those are all the questions we have. A big round of applause for our presenters.